This is Top Accolade Global News Updates. I am Soibifa Jackridge. The chief of Hamas said on Tuesday that the Palestinian militant group was near a truce agreement with Israel, even as deadly assault on Gaza continued and rockets were being fired into Israel. Hamas officials are close to reaching a truce agreement with Israel, and the group has delivered its response to Qatari mediators, Ismail Haniyeh said in a statement. The statement gave no more details, but a Hamas official told Al Jazeera TV that negotiations were centered on how long the truce would last. Arrangements for delivery of aid into Gaza and the exchange of Israeli hostages held by Hamas for Palestinian prisoners in Israel. Both sides would free women and children, and details will be announced by Qatar, which is mediating in the negotiations, said the officials. Isat El Reshik Mijana Sojarik, president of the International Committee of the Red Cross (ICRC), met Haniyeh in Qatar on Monday to advance humanitarian issues related to the conflict. The Geneva-based ICRC said in a statement. She also met separately with Qatari authorities. The ICRC said it was not part of negotiations aimed at releasing the hostages, but as a neutral intermediary, it was ready to facilitate any future release that the parties agreed to. Talk of an imminent hostage deal has squealed for days. Last week, report shows Qatari mediators were seeking a deal for Hamas and Israel to exchange 50 hostages in return for a 3-day ceasefire that would boost emergency aid shipments to Gaza civilians. Citing an official briefed on the talks, Israeli ambassador to the United States Michael Herzog said on ABC's This Week on Sunday that he hoped for an agreement in the coming days, while Qatar Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani said that the remaining sticking points were very minor. U.S. President Joe Biden and other U.S. officials said on Monday a deal was near, but an agreement has appeared close before. The first images emerged on Tuesday of 41 men trapped for more than a week in a highway tunnel in the Indian Himalayas, showing them standing in the confined space and communicating with rescue workers. The men have been stuck in the 4.5 kilometers in Uttarakhand state since it caved in early on November 12 and are safe, authorities said, with access to lights, oxygen, food, water, and medicine. They have not said what caused the cave-in, but the region is prone to landslides, earthquakes, and floods. Efforts to bring out the 41 men have been slowed by snags in drilling through the debris in the mountainous terrain. A 30-second video provided by authorities showed about a dozen of the trapped men standing in a semicircle in front of the camera, wearing helmets and construction worker jackets over their clothes against the backdrop of the lights in the tunnel. A rescue worker outside could be heard telling the men to present themselves before the camera one by one to confirm their identities on the walkie-talkie gear that had been sent in. The video was shot through a medical endoscopy camera that was pushed through a second wider pipeline of 6 inches, that is 15 centimeters in diameter, drilled through the debris on Monday, authorities said. In the clip, the trapped men appeared to be doing fine, answering that they were alright in response to queries about their well-being, said one official in the rescue control room who spoke on condition of anonymity. Rescuers are set on Tuesday to resume drilling horizontally through a 60-meter, that is 195 feet, pile of debris to push through a pipe large enough for the trapped men to crawl out. Drilling had been suspended on Friday after a machine snag and fears of a fresh collapse. Authorities are simultaneously working on 5 other plans to pull out the workers, including drilling vertically from the top of the mountain. Some investors in OpenAI, makers of ChatGPT, are exploring legal recourse against the company's board. Sources familiar with the matter said on Monday, after the directors outside CEO Sam Altman and sparked a potential mass exodus of employees, sources said investors are working with legal advisors to study their options. It was not immediately clear if these investors will sue OpenAI. Investors worry that they could lose hundreds of millions billions of dollars. They invested in OpenAI, a crown jewel in some of their portfolios, with the potential collapse of the hottest startup in the rapidly growing generative AI sector. OpenAI did not respond to a request for comments. Microsoft owns 49% of the for-profit operating company, according to sources familiar with the matter. Other investors and employees control 49%, with 2% owned by OpenAI's non-profit parent, according to Semaphore. OpenAI's board fired Altman on Friday after a breaking of communications, according to an internal memo seen. By Monday, most of OpenAI's more than 700 employees threatened to resign unless the company replaced the board. Venture capital investors usually hold board seats or voting power in their portfolio companies, but OpenAI is controlled by its non-profit parent company, which, according to OpenAI's website, was created to benefit humanity, not OpenAI investors. As a result, employees have more leverage in pressuring the board than the venture capitalists who helped fund the company, said Minor Meyers, a law professor at the University of Connecticut. There is nobody exactly who is the seat of an injured investor, he said. Social media company X on Monday sued media watchdog group Media Matters, alleging the organization defamed the platform after it published a report that said ads for major brands had appeared next to posts touting Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party. X, formerly known Twitter, has faced growing outrage since Media Matters published the report on Thursday, which led IBM, Comcast, and several other advertisers to pull ads from the platform in response. In the lawsuit filed in a U.S. district court in Texas, X claimed the Media Matters manipulated the social media platform by using accounts that exclusively followed accounts for major brands or users known to produce fringe content, and resulted to endlessly scrolling and refreshing the feed until it found ads next to extremist posts. Media Matters reports misrepresented the typical experience on X with the intention of harming X and its business. The company said in the lawsuit, Media Matters stand behind its reporting and looks forward to winning in court, he added. Telsa, X, formerly known as Twitter, and SpaceX CEO Elon Musk speaks with members of the media during the AI Safety Summit at Bletchley Park in Bletchley, Britain on November 1, 2023. Leon New filed for to acquire licensing rights. If you search for white nationalist content, there are ads flourishing. The system they say exists is not operating as such, he said. X said in the lawsuits that ads for IBM, Comcast, and Oracle only appeared alongside hateful content for one viewer, which the company said was Media Matters. Data wins over manipulation or allegation. Don't be manipulated, stand with X. Ex-chief executive Linda Yaccarino posted on Monday. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton said on Monday his office was opening an investigation into Media Matters and that he was extremely troubled by allegations that the group manipulated data on X since Musk purchased Twitter for $44 billion in October 2022. A stream of advertisers have fled the platform, wary of some of Musk's controversial posts and layoffs of employees who worked to moderate content. The platform's US ad revenue has declined at least 55% year-over-year each month since Musk's takeover. France, backed by the United States, plans to seek a halt to private financing for coal-based power plants during the UN climate conference later this month. Three sources familiar with the deliberations. The plan, which was communicated to India earlier this month, will deepen divisions at the COP28 summit in Dubai, running from November 30th to December 12th, with India and China opposed to any attempt to block construction of coal-fired power stations solutions for their energy-hungry economies, France's Minister of State for Development, Kritola Zakharopoulos, told the Indian government about the plan, called the New Coal Exclusion Policy for Private Financial Institutions and Insurance Companies. Two Indian officials said the plan to stop private financing for coal-fired power plants has not been previously reported. A source in Europe familiar with the plan said the aim was to dry up private funding for coal power and that it was a top priority for French President Emmanuel Macron during COP28. Seen as a crucial opportunity to accelerate action to limit global warming, the proposal provides for the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development (OECD) to set coexist standards for private finance firms whose financing could be tracked by regulators, rating agencies, and non-governmental organizations. The two Indian officials said the US, European Union, and Canada, among others, have been seeking a plan to expedite the phase-out of coal, which they have cited as the number one threat to climate goals. They are concerned private international financing continues to support large additions to coal capacity in developing nations. According to the plan shared by France with India, about 73% of electricity consumed in India is produced using coal. Even though the country has increased its non-fossil capacity to 44% of its total installed power generation capacity, the country intends to resist the push to fix a deadline for a fossil fuel phase-out or phase-down at COP28, as coal will be its main energy source for a few more decades, and may ask members to shift their focus on reducing emissions from other sources. It may also push developed nations to become carbon negative rather than carbon neutral by 2050. That is the size of top accolade global news updates. You can follow us on all our social media platforms as displayed on your screen. Happy Tuesday.